Hello, everybody. I'm Rhea Aoun-Clavel, Event Director of TrustTech. I'm happy to be with you today. Thank you for being with us. So welcome to a new episode of our COVID-cast series, a limited series of podcasts TrustTech is launching to discuss how the coronavirus is impacting the payments, identification, and security sectors. In this fortnightly rendezvous, John Devlin, Principal Analyst and Founder of Paid Strategies and host of TrustTech's Innovation Stage, will share his insights and expertise based on his recent report, The Impact of COVID-19 on Smart Cards and Embedded Security. In this third podcast, we will explore possible ways to overcome the disruption and challenges of COVID-19 in transportation and border control. I'm delighted to welcome John, who will answer my questions regarding the adoption of secure technologies for mass transit and air travel. So John, welcome. It appears that COVID-19 has hit the transportation sector particularly hard. How bad is it, and is it getting any better?
Thank you, Rhea. Yes, I think that certainly, from what we've looked at, and that's across sort of mass transit or public transportation, and both hit and disrupted by COVID-19. The simple reason is people are making fewer people are traveling to work every day. Even after the lockdowns have been eased, people are working from home, they're concerned about the virus and the safety of being in an environment with many other people on transportation. So they're either often or finding other ways to get to their destination, business travel and flight restrictions and holidays are all in 2020 with the situations changing in many countries around quarantine and freedom to travel across borders. So definitely huge changes in the sector. I think that I saw some numbers that train, metro and bus usage is 50% in many countries. And whilst this has increased as efforts to restart countries' economies have begun, it's expected that long-term as much as 20% down as people's behavior has changed. When we wrote the impact report, we adjusted our expectations for or top-up tickets by 20 to 25% for this year, and longer term for 5 to 10%. But we do believe that there will still be growth, but a slightly reduced amount than before the virus took a hold and impacted the sector. We're not forecasting, or we don't track disposable tickets or one-time use tickets, but we believe that side of the market will be harder hit. We think. And if we're looking at passenger volumes in air travel, they were down by over 95% at the height of the lockdowns, and in August were still reported to be broadly 70 to 80% down on the same time last year. Peak summer travel for many countries. And as a result, the Airports Council International, or ACI, airports globally will see an expected drop of revenue this year of $97 billion, which is a significant amount. Here in the UK, I saw that Heathrow in the last 6 months believe that COVID-19 has cost them £1 billion. Gatwick Airports released figures saying that passenger numbers for the first 6 months of the year, and they were operational near normal for 3 months of that year, of that period, were down 66% and revenues down 61%. So a huge change, and they're looking to reduce capex and opex as a result, and readjust the way that they conduct their businesses and provide their services, because our outlook, having spoken with various stakeholders within the industry, is that even by 2024 years' time, passenger volumes will have only recovered to sort of pre-2010 numbers. So there's a decade of growth has gone there.
Yes, I imagine that it's a very complicated situation. So what is the solution? How will we see a transformation of the transportation sectors and the passenger experience, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, both types of transportation are looking to secure solutions and new technologies to enhance safety back. So we see a number of bright spots and recognize that people are adjusting. They have to use transport to live their daily lives. We think that in the transit space, certainly contactless payments, mobile ticketing are increasingly being adopted to make journeys more touchless and more seamless. Masabi is a mobile ticketing payment company, very active. There have been a number of new announcements from them since the start of lockdown, and they've been putting a lot of effort to highlight how their solutions are touchless and can enable purchase and travel through. And we're also seeing alternatives such as biometrics being used, already have been implemented or tested in some parts of Asia, China notably. And so facial recognition to recognize people on a train or as they enter a station. That interest is being explored in other countries. And I mentioned the Eurostar test with iProve for their facial recognition solution. And that allows passengers who register to do so, to check in and board without any traditional or manual face-to-face ticket and ID inspection, initially between UK and France, but being rolled out more widely across European hubs next year. And then in the aviation space, there's already been a lot of activity, early activity around biometrics and digital identity in airports. We started looking at that market 3 years ago and have been tracking an increasing number of pilots and trials in that time. And the technology has been around a while and has evolved. We're seeing more e-gates being implemented and installed in more airports, in more countries. Self-check-in and bag drops are a little behind that and hadn't advanced to the same level, but this is now changing. And we, for airports, the challenge has changed now as well. Before COVID-19, they were looking at how to manage increasing volumes of passengers more efficiently without increasing their costs, how to maximize sort of ancillary revenues around retail and hospitality. But now, certainly in the short term, it's about financial survival for them, how to reduce costs and still provide a service. So it's really about efficiency with automation and self-service, so they can prioritize their resources where needed. And they're exploring new business models and partnerships with specialists in the sector, moving away from bespoke solutions, more consideration for commercially available solutions, more interest in use of the cloud to knit all their systems together, reduce costs, improve delivery times. Both sectors are really looking to reassure travelers by reducing sort of human interaction and minimizing contact. And the advantage is that it also, typically reduces OPEX and improves efficiency with more control and insight due to the data that's generated. So, and this can help with, the health aspect and track and trace as well if necessary.
So finally, despite the very hard times for those in the industry, it sounds like there are some positives that might come from this. Do you think we will see an accelerated adoption of secure technologies?
I think so, for sure. Certainly, much greater usage already of contactless and mobile payments. They were more widely available, but there had been some hesitation by some users and also by some service providers around implementing them. They were happy with the traditional status quo and way of doing business. But those systems, definitely more opening up, more integration of open loop payments into traditionally closed loop ticketing. And we're seeing that across all regions: Europe, Asia, the Americas, Middle East and Africa as well to some degree. And I believe that it's an essential part of any transportation upgrade program now. We're seeing more smartphone and personal or wearable device brands integrating payments into their products, sometimes their own schemes, but also with Google Pay and other systems too. Contactless card usage continues to increase, and as mentioned, the user behavior and acceptance of contactless cards is much more open now too, across more demographics, including those that have been more reluctant in the past, either because they didn't see a need, they didn't have the awareness, or they had some concerns around security. So that's changing now. And we're seeing more smartphone integration as well in general for ticketing. So there's less need to touch kiosks or terminals or gates. So that's changing. One note of caution is that on looking at mobility as a service, which had been getting a lot of interest, integrating public transportation and different modes of transport. Will people be as happy to use shared vehicles? Would they look to other schemes like would they rather buy an e-scooter than hire one? Those type of questions will remain to be seen. But for traditional public transportation, I think that these solutions will be more widely adopted. Airports, which obviously have been, as I said, been very hard hit. Automation and self-service solutions have been available to them for a number of years, led by the tier 1 airports, but with others following. Europe had seen widespread implementation of e-gates, and that was continuing to increase. Other regions were following that suit. So for sort of self-service border control and access to countries when you disembark from an aircraft, that was progressing. Other applications hadn't been so widely adopted: bag drop, check-in, e-gate, not e-gates, sorry, but e-boarding gates, and companies like Visionbox, Thales, Sita, Collins, Amadeus, they've got the ability to provide integrated solutions and platforms that connect all these areas. The long-term aim, with the involvement of companies like Accurant, Ariadnext, Dayon, sort of all biometrics and mobile identity specialists, is to look to integrate or implement IATA's One ID project, or think something very similar to that, which is designed to give seamless travel on a passenger would register either before or upon arrival at the airport, probably through a mobile app, but potentially through a kiosk, and that would allow them then to pass through all the passenger touch points, from bag drop, check-in, bag tag printing, security, retail, hospitality with the lounges, and then the boarding gate as well, without having to present any further ID or for inspection. It could be it's basically creating a biometric token is the vision, either facial capture or fingerprint, and that could then be sort of provide an automated journey through the airport and onto the plane. And we're seeing mobile NFC being integrated at more points too, potentially with mobile being used to pair with the touch points. I know a number of companies are testing this out for their machines or devices and kiosks, so that your personal device can be the sort of the user interface went through these different stages of the journey through the airport, and much greater interest in developing apps and increasing their capability as well, potentially taking some of the check-in process, for example, taking that off-site, so it's done before you get to the airport, similar as it is with online check-in, but through mobile, and that can be paired with your passport as well, either through a visual capture or through an NFC read of the passport. And there's companies like Accurant and Read ID that are very strongly promoting that, and Jumio too. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity for companies here, and I think that there's definitely a need to help the industry readjust to the new normal and new consumer behavior and different travel patterns. So I think that whilst things are very tough right now, I think that they are certainly full of opportunity and potential as well.
Thank you for your time, John. That was really interesting. We hope you enjoyed this third COVID cast with John Devlin. Join us again in 2 weeks for the next episode of this limited series. Until then, have a wonderful day.